So here is the story of reverse thinking. And I was thinking how come I forgot this story? How come I forgot this topic? Raghav had always been known as the practical one. In school, when others dreamed, he calculated. In college, when friends experimented, he optimized. At work, when people explored ideas, he refined what already existed. It worked for him. A stable job, predictable growth, respectable life. And yet, there was something quietly unsettling. It began as a faint thought during late evenings when the noise of the day had settled. Is this all? He would dismiss it quite quickly. Of course, this is all. This is what stability looks like. One Monday morning, Raghav sat staring at a screen. A new project had landed on his desk. Build a new model for rural macro enterprise growth. It sounded important. It was important. But the instructions were vague. There was no clear path, no tested framework, only one expectation. Think differently. Raghav felt uncomfortable. Different thinking was inefficient, risky, unstructured. He opened his laptop and began what he always did: search for existing models. Nothing fit. He tried modifying old frameworks. Still nothing. By evening, frustration had set in. This won't work, he muttered. That evening, instead of going home, Raghav wandered into a quiet park near his office. He sat on a bench, staring at nothing in particular. An old man sat beside him. After a while, no conversation at first, just silence. Then the old man spoke. You look like someone who is trying very hard in one direction. Raghav glanced at him. I am trying to solve something. It is not working. The old man smiled. That is because you are trying to solve it from the same side. Raghav frowned. What does that mean? The old man leaned slightly forward. It means you are asking the same kind of questions from the same assumptions, expecting a different answer. Raghav didn't respond. The man continued. Tell me, what is the problem? Raghav hesitated, then spoke. I need to design something new, but nothing seems to fit. Everything feels unrealistic. The old man nodded. Good. Raghav looked too confused. Good? Yes, the man said, because now you have reached the edge of your current thinking. The old man turned to him and asked, what if the opposite is true? Raghav blinked. What? What if everything you believe about this problem is not entirely true? Raghav shook his head. That doesn't make sense. The old man smiled. Exactly. That is why it works. Raghav stood up. I don't have time for riddles. The old man didn't stop him. Just said one thing. When something doesn't move, don't push harder. Look from the other side. That night, Raghav couldn't sleep. The question lingered. What if the opposite is true? He tried to ignore it, but his mind kept returning to it. Finally, he gave in. He opened his notebook and wrote, rural enterprises need structured, predictable models. Then paused and wrote beneath it, what if they don't? He stared at the sentence. It felt wrong. but also slightly interesting. He continued, people need access to credit to grow. Then, what if they already have access but lack something else? Repayment discipline is critical. Then, what if the flexibility creates better outcomes? Each time he flipped a belief, something uncomfortable happened, but something else happened too. A gap opened, a space he hadn't seen before. Seeing what was always there. The next day, Raghav visited a rural cluster. He had been there before, but this time he carried a different question. Not what is missing, but what if nothing is missing? He observed quietly women running small businesses, men managing seasonal income, groups pooling resources informally. He noticed something he had ignored earlier. They were not lacking structure, they had their own structure, just not the one he was used to. He sat with a group of women. One of them, Meera, spoke. We don't need fixed schedules. Our income changes. Raghav would have earlier noted this as a problem. But now a thought emerged. What if this is not a problem, but a design input? Another man said, we borrow from each other when needed. Earlier, Raghav would have seen this as informal and risky. Now, a new question arose. What if this is the strongest system they already have? Back in his office, Raghav didn't open old models. He opened a blank page. At the top, he wrote, assumptions I have been making. Then below, what if the opposite is true? He began redesigning the system, not by adding complexity, but by removing his own assumptions. Instead of fixed repayments, flexible cycles, instead of individual credit, community linked flows, instead of top down design, bottom up adaptation. Midway, fear crept in. This is too unconventional. What if it fails? What will people say? Then the question returned. What if the opposite is true? He wrote, unconventional ideas fail. Then beneath, what if the unconventional ideas are the only ones that work here? Something settled, not confidence, but clarity. A week later, Raghav presented his model. There was silence in the room. One senior leader asked, this is very different. What made you think this way? Raghav paused, then said, I stopped trying to fix the problem and started questioning how I was seeing it. The model was piloted, not perfectly, but effectively. It adapted, evolved because it was built not from rigid assumptions, but from flexible understanding. Months later, Raghav returned to the same park. The old man was there. He sat beside him again. This time, Raghav spoke first. You were right, the old man smiled. No, you were ready. Raghav asked, does this always work? Asking the opposite. The old man replied, it doesn't give you answers. It gives you space. Raghav walked away with one quiet understanding. The mind does not get stuck because problems are hard. It gets stuck because it keeps looking the same way. So the next time something feels impossible, don't rush to solve it. Pause and ask, what if the opposite is true? Because sometimes that is not a contradiction. It is the doorway.